As Canada prepares for its federal election on April 28, 2025, a surprising political trend is making headlines across the nation. A significant portion of the youth, particularly young men, are now leaning towards the Conservative Party. This trend is unfolding even as Canada faces heightened tensions with its largest trading partner and closest neighbor, the United States. Now under the renewed leadership of President Donald Trump, at first glance, the shift seems counterintuitive. But when we dig deeper, a complex, fascinating story begins to unfold, one that highlights the economic pressures, political frustrations, and cultural currents shaping a new generation of Canadian voters. Today, we're going to explore the forces behind this realignment and what it could mean for the future of Canadian politics. At the heart of this shift is a political leader who has captured the imagination of many young Canadians, Conservative Party leader Pierre Poilievre. Poilievre's messaging is direct, often emotional, and focused on issues that strike at the core of young people's daily struggles: affording a home, finding a stable career, and coping with a soaring cost of living are no longer future concerns, they are present-day crises. According to a Nanos poll conducted between April 21 and 23, nearly half, 49.3%, of voters aged 18 to 34 now support the Conservative Party. In contrast, just 30% of young voters say they back the governing Liberals. Among Canadian men of all ages, the Conservative lead remains strong, with 45.5% expressing a preference for Poilievre's party, compared to 36.7% favoring the Liberals under Prime Minister Mark Carney. This data reveals a major realignment in Canadian politics, one that breaks from the traditional narrative of young voters leaning left. But why is this happening now? For many young Canadians, day-to-day economic survival overshadows grand debates about international relations. While past elections often featured foreign policy as a significant concern, today's youth are focused inward. The housing crisis is perhaps the most potent example. Homeownership, once a cornerstone of the Canadian dream, has become increasingly unattainable for young people in cities like Toronto, Vancouver, and even smaller urban centers. Inflation continues to erode purchasing power. Essentials like groceries, transportation, and rent have become heavier financial burdens, squeezing budgets like never before. When Poilievre talks about cutting taxes, slashing red tape, and holding corporate and government elites accountable, many young Canadians feel he's speaking directly to them. Meanwhile, issues like strained relations with the U.S., diplomatic tensions, and foreign trade, while important, seem distant and abstract compared to the urgent need to pay rent, buy food, and one day, maybe, own a home. For many, it's not that foreign policy doesn't matter, it's that survival comes first. And yet, the storm clouds of foreign policy loom larger than ever. Across the border, President Donald Trump's return to power has reintroduced volatility into Canada-U.S. relations. Trump's rhetoric has been particularly aggressive. He's threatened to impose new tariffs on Canadian goods, putting industries like lumber, dairy, and automotive manufacturing at risk. In one particularly inflammatory moment, Trump even floated the idea of annexing Canadian territory, remarks that, while dismissed by many as bluster, nonetheless struck a nerve. In response, Prime Minister Mark Carney has positioned himself as the steady hand at the wheel. His message: Canada must stand firm, defend its sovereignty, and protect its distinct national identity against external threats. Carney's campaign focuses heavily on patriotism, unity, and resilience, themes that resonate deeply with many voters, especially older Canadians who remember past trade disputes and diplomatic tensions with the U.S. Yet among the youth, there's a different sentiment: skepticism. While young Canadians certainly care about national pride, for many, these foreign dramas feel distant when weighed against the immediate pressures of daily life. The 2025 election is also revealing sharp generational and gender divides. Among older voters, those aged 55 and above, the Liberals maintain a clear advantage. Older Canadians tend to prioritize healthcare, pension security, and social safety nets, areas where Liberal policies have traditionally been strongest. Women, too, are leaning toward the Liberals at higher rates than men, especially on issues like healthcare, education, and reproductive rights. But among younger demographics, particularly young men, the story is different. Many young men feel left behind by the current system. They see skyrocketing costs, stagnant wages, and what they perceive as political elites out of touch with their struggles. in Pierre Poilievre, they see someone who names the problem, points the finger, and offers what feels like a tangible path forward. This phenomenon isn't isolated to Canada. Across Western democracies, from the United States to Europe, young men are increasingly moving toward right-leaning parties. Drawn by promises of economic revival, personal freedom, and an end to what they perceive as ineffective, bloated governance. Of course, polling data is one thing. Voter turnout is another. Historically, young Canadians have shown lower rates of electoral participation compared to older demographics. In the 2019 and 2021 elections, turnout among 18 to 24-year-olds lagged significantly behind older voters, often by as much as 20 percentage points. And that reality poses a major question. Even if the Conservatives have successfully captured the political imagination of young voters, can they motivate them to show up on election day? Recognizing this challenge, all major parties, including the Liberals, Conservatives, and the New Democrats, are investing heavily in youth outreach, digital advertising, and get-out-the-vote campaigns. For Poilievre and the Conservatives, the stakes are clear. Without robust youth turnout, the polling lead among younger demographics may not translate into real electoral victories. Meanwhile, the Liberals hope that reminders of Trump's aggression and appeals to social justice will energize their own base of younger progressive voters. This conservative surge among Canadian youth isn't happening in isolation. In the United States, younger white men in particular have drifted towards Republican and populist movements. In Europe, countries like France, Italy, and Germany have witnessed a similar phenomenon, with young men embracing conservative and nationalist parties. Economic disillusionment, cultural frustration, and a yearning for change are common threads. For Canada, this trend raises important questions. How will parties adapt their platforms to meet the evolving demands of younger voters? Will economic concerns continue to eclipse traditional liberal priorities like climate change and diversity? And what long-term impact will this generational shift have on the fabric of Canadian society? The answers will unfold not just on election day, but in the years and decades that follow. This moment is about more than just one election. It's about a fundamental reshaping of political identity among Canada's next generation. As Canada stands at the threshold of a historic election, the voices of its youth are growing louder, more determined, and more influential. Their choices, forged by economic hardship, national pride, and a hunger for change, will shape the nation's future in profound ways. April 28, 2025, may well be remembered as the moment when a new political era truly began. No matter where you stand on the political spectrum, one thing is clear: the energy, ideas, and aspirations of Canada's youth are not to be underestimated. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about the youth conservative surge? And what do you believe Canada's future holds?